Okay, Assalamu alaikum everybody. As usual, welcome to this great event. Thank you for attending. This semester, inshallah, we'll have 8 online workshops and we'll have more in class and online workshops, mostly for the students and some faculty. Uh, the first great workshop, inshallah, and that will attract you is going to be about a concise guide to writing a thesis or dissertation. It is going to be presented by Dr. Basim Alamri, the Associate Professor at the LI and the Director of the Academic Writing Center. Needless to introduce Dr. Basim, you know him very well, and his achievements talk a lot about him. And I'm sure that this first workshop will be of great benefit to most of you, inshallah, if not all. The floor is yours, Dr. Basim, if you want to start. But just a reminder, by the end of the workshop, please make sure that you fill in the survey or the form, the evaluation form, with correct information, valid email, and university email, of course, so far. You can start, Dr. Basim. The floor is yours.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Masa al khair al jamii. Thank you, brother Kamal, for the nice introduction. And yeah, today, inshallah, I'm going to talk about the topic that everybody here, especially graduate students, really need to master the strategies and skills of writing thesis and or, of course, a dissertation. So, as we all know that writing thesis or dissertation takes long time. It's a long process. It takes years, maybe 1 to 2 years to finish writing master thesis, and up to 4 or 5 years to finish your PhD dissertation. So in my presentation, I'm gonna focus on strategies and tips and techniques. But before that, how to start writing your thesis or dissertation. So the first step that you need to take is to consult your faculty member or the committee chair to consult him about how to structure and develop your study. This is the first step. You sit with your advisor or the committee chair, ask him about everything about the thesis and dissertation, and also pay attention to the requirements set out by your university. But before that, let me ask you just a couple questions. Uh, what is your discipline here? This is an open question for the audience. So are you from social science or hard science, medicine? So what is your discipline? TESOL, nursing, TESOL, okay, clinical biochemistry, humanities, pharmacy, microbiology, okay, engineering as well, geometric. Good. So, mashallah, we have a very diverse disciplines and audience here. So, what I'm gonna share with you is like the main elements that you need to write, you need to take into consideration when writing your thesis and dissertation. So the first step here is to consult your advisor and to pay attention to the requirements provided by your university. So in my presentation, I'm going to focus on 2 parts. The first one is the big picture. The big picture. the second part, which is I know you are looking for this part, which is the structure of thesis and dissertation. So let's start by defining the what is the meaning of thesis, what is the meaning of dissertation. So thesis here refers to a study completed as part of a master program, and the same for a dissertation, which is basically for completing doctoral program. So this is it. It's a study, but it's like a bigger study. The purpose of both dissertation and thesis is to demonstrate that you have sufficient knowledge of your study or your field. For example, if your dissertation is about teachers' professional development, so then you are an expert in this field. It's not the field or the department you are coming from or you're studying in. For example, if I'm an English department, so I'm not an expert in English, I'm an expert in the title or the topic that I investigated in the dissertation. So this is the point here. So that's why we say demonstrate sufficient knowledge in a particular topic. So now we know, generally speaking, what the thesis or dissertation is. Let's now move on to how to develop topic. So this is the second step after you talk or speak to your advisor. Here, you need to develop a topic. Your advisor will say, okay, you studied with us for like 1, 2, 3 years. It's time now to pick a topic. How would you do this? Well, I have a couple criteria and also suggestions and tips for you. Well, the first criteria here, it should be within your interest. So you need to pick up a topic that is related to your interest. You have something that motivates you to choose this topic. If you are not interested in this or X topic, please don't go forward with it. Otherwise, you'll stuck. You don't in the middle, so you feel something that you are not familiar with. The significance. So what's the point? You pick up X topic. So is it significant? Yes, no. If it's not, why? So you should pick a significant topic that is related to your field. Third criterion here is available data. So you have to think about this carefully, because if you want to choose a topic that you may face problem when collecting data, so please you don't do this, because once you reach data collection you're stuck, then you have to go back to square one, which is not good. Knowledge and skills, this is a very important. For example, if you if you are not interested or you don't have skill in programming, for example, why do you choose to choose a topic that involves programming, for example? So you need to pick your topic wisely. Manageability, this is another very important factor. So if it's not manageable, please don't choose this topic. Manageable topics uh, play major role when you finish your thesis or dissertation. Choose topics that are manageable. You can finish them within your time frame, for example 2, 3, 4 years. Otherwise you will stuck again. Funding, this is for those who are in medical, for example, or in engineering, or in hard science in general. Try to choose or pick a topic that does not require funding, because if you need fund here, there are two ways. First, you apply for graduate grant. I think KU has some many universities provide this funding for graduate students. Otherwise, if your university does not provide fund, so please no need to think of this topic. Maybe later you have to find other topic or other topics. Okay, I can't read the chat, but I will jump back and forth between slide and the chat. All right, other suggestions here. Look within your own professional practice for ideas. Discuss these ideas with your peers, your colleagues, even your students. Why not? Discuss this with your students, especially if you want to investigate uh, or to engage your students in your study. Ask them, discuss with them whether this topic is good, whether is not good. Consult your committee members, for example, your advisor, practitioners. So when you discuss like one topic with all of people that are around you, so believe me, you will have many ideas, many excellent topics that are researchable. Read the literature. This is a wise advice that I can give to anyone who is looking for a topic or topics. Read the literature, recent topics and journal articles, recent journal articles, again, within your area of interest. Articulate the problem or need. Now you have read, have looked at and shared and discussed ideas with others. Now you need to articulate the problem, the need. Okay, I now I've read, let's say, 20 articles and 10 books and so many other stuff. So now, so what? What's the problem? Did you find one? Okay, you find one, two, three, four problems or needs. Now try to address them and try to change these problems into a topic based on your interest. Consider what you might measure. This is very important, the measurement. Also, the data, how to gather the data, who to survey, who to interview, who to conduct the study with students, peers, uh, people on the street, for example, in a hotel, or consider this whether it is manageable, feasible, or not. If it's not, again, go back to other problems that you have in your list. Now you are done with the topics. You have list of topics. Now it's time to organize your ideas. So I have a question here for you. Where do you start? So let's say you start writing your thesis. Before that, you have your proposal. So what do you think? Which chapter would you start with? Is it chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3? Okay, Zainab said chapter 1, 2, Asala. Okay, method, Ajwad. Okay. Well, actually, yes, I agree with those who said number 2 or collecting idea. It's too early, Amira, for this. So yeah, start by chapter 2 because this is the core point for you. Chapter 2 here, which is the literature review. By reading the literature review, reading the literature, many articles, many books, textbooks, so then you will have a general picture, general overview about your topic. Once you finish the literature review, then you go to chapter 1, which is introduction. There are like subsections or sections that are required, and the introduction will talk about about them in part 2. So then lastly, you write chapter 3, which is a methodology. This is the proposal. After you finish writing these 3 sections or chapters, it's time for chapter 4 and 5, which are findings and discussion. Some universities ask for like 1 chapter, this findings and discussion as a 1 chapter. Others would ask for having results as separate chapter, discussion separate, and conclusion. And other universities as well ask to combine discussion with the conclusion. We'll talk about this. So make sure to get the approval if you have human subject. To get the IRB approval, institution review board, ask your ethical committee to grant you permission to conduct your research if you have, for example, human subjects in your study. Then finally, you write the reference and the abstract. Now you are ready with the organization. Let's now move on to writing quality. These are general requirements that you need to take into consideration. First, grammatical correctness. Everything should be grammatically correct, clear, precise, and accurate. And the ideas logically flow from one idea to another. Try to not combine 2 or 3 ideas in one paragraph or in one section. Try to write each idea in separate paragraph. Make it flow from one, logically flow from one paragraph or from one idea to another. Level of headings. Here you need again to consult your university to see whether if they use APA style, for example, or ABA style. What you see here in the right is the APA style. You see here we have 5 levels here. Level 1 is the chapter 1 introduction, level 2 the sections, level 3 subsections, and so on. Table of content, I would suggest that you use the function, table content function in Microsoft Word. It's very helpful. I personally use this function in designing or creating a table of content. The format, again, check with the institution, your institute or your university. But mostly, most dissertations and theses are written in 12-point font with Time New Romans, double space, except with the tables and figures. As for the margins, it depends on whether you want to point it from left or from the side. So consult your the university manual. Lastly, it should be all the dissertation or thesis should be numbered in the top right position. All right. One last thing here is there are other pages that you need to include. The title page, this is the first one. You need to add the certification of approval page, signature of advisor and date. This is the 3rd page. The 4th page is the acknowledgement or dedication. And then the abstract, and we all know what is the purpose of the abstract, which is to provide readers with a concise and accurate overview with a maximum of 350 words, no more than 350 words. Why 350 words? Not like journal articles. Here you have like plenty of space, so you need to talk more about your study. But in journals, now it's 150, so you only have very limited space. But in dissertation, there is no word limit or page limit. Mostly thesis around 2000 words, and the thesis thesis 3,000 words, 30,000 words, and the thesis around 15 to 20,000 words. But again, there is no minimum or maximum number for thesis or dissertation. What does the abstract include here is the purpose, research questions, methodology, participant result, and conclusion. So you need to include all of these elements in the abstract. Valuable resources. For this presentation, I use these resources. King Abdulaziz University has a manual, thesis formatting manual in Arabic and in English, دليل كتابة رسائل علمية. So you can download this from the Deanship of Higher Study من أعمال الدراسات العليا. You can download this from their website. Also, if you need more information or details, so you can use many resources like the ones that I used here in the presentation. Okay, so let's now move on to part 2. Any questions so far about part 1? All right, everything is clear. That's good. Okay, let's now move on to part 2, thesis and dissertation structure. Generally speaking, as I mentioned earlier, most universities ask for 5 sections or 5 chapters, let me say. Introduction, literature review, methodology, result, discussion, and with the discussion, there is what? Conclusion. Most university. Okay, Asala, what I'm going to talk about in part 2 is mostly part of the proposal, and the third, the chapters 4 and 5. So 5 chapters. Some universities ask for 6 chapters, and other universities ask for 4 chapters. So let's now see chapter number 1, which is introduction. So in introduction, you need to talk about these sections, these points: the background of the study, the statement of the problem, purpose of the study, significance of the study, research questions, assumptions. Sometimes it depends on your field. For example, medicine or not, they might have or let's say science might have assumptions, limitations, delimitations, definition of terms. So you need to include the ones that I highlighted here: background, statement, purpose, significance, question, limitation, and definitions are must be added to your dissertation or your thesis. This is a must. So you need to include these elements. So what is the background of the study? What to include in background study or background of the study? Here you need to present the big picture about your study. Identify the context wisely. Tell the reader why the study is important. Build a case for the statement of the problem, because if you don't do this step, so you will write 5-10 pages of this section. So this section should be around three pages or so. Then after you build your case, you build your problem here. Whether, again, it depends on your field or discipline. Some fields like social science or humanities have what we call a theoretical framework or theoretical construct. So it's time to to talk about it here a little bit, and then you expand it later. Otherwise, no need to talk about theoretical framework or theoretical construct. So here, give us, give the readers background about your study. Once you're ready, your background of study will lead logically to the statement of the problem. If it doesn't, so then you need to revisit your background of the study section. So once you have your statement of problem, let's move on to the statement here. So what is the role of the statement? What is the purpose of statement of a problem? It clarifies, outlines, limits, and brings into existence an expression of the problem you are investigating. If it doesn't do this purpose, again, you need to revisit your statement of problem. It answers the question of what. So what? So what? Or what is being studied? It gives directions to the study. It unifies all the effort undertaken during the conduct of the study. This is by Castetter. Make sure that all the chapters that you are going to write from chapter 2 all the way to chapter 5 will be focused and related to the statement of the problem. So this section is very important section in your thesis or dissertation. There are many ways of how to present or how to identify your statement of a problem. One way is this one here: little or no research on a particular topic exists. This is one technique. Another technique is here: there is some research, okay, we know that, but it has not been applied to enough samples. Maybe X study or one of the previous studies focused on 5 participants. Now I'm going to focus on 500 participants. So this is another way of how to identify problem uh, in in the literature. We'll talk about this later on. Okay, research abounds. Okay, there are many research as well, but the findings are contradictory. X says this, Y says, okay, this is not okay. So you need to investigate what's wrong or what is the contradiction here. Another way here is to investigate why two theories explain the same phenomena, but they recommend different, they have different outcomes. They have different outcomes. So now here you need to intervene here. You need to do something to, let's say, test the hypothesis or test the theories. Let's move on to look at this example here. See how this author identified the problem. While these studies have described and developed the construct of teacher efficacy, there is little empirical research on principal efficacy. Okay, this is one way of identifying the problem, or what we call it, a research gap. A research gap. All right, the purpose of a study. Here, choose an area of focus that is personally motivated. As I mentioned earlier, well, a well-written purpose statement, avoid bias. Don't put your opinion, don't say something that is biased. Well, I choose this topic or the purpose of this topic because I like it. No, no, this is a bias. Stay away from being biased when you present or talk about the purpose of your study. What is the problem that you are going to investigate? So this is the purpose of your study. Tell us about the problem. What is the contribution of this problem? What is the benefit? What is going to measure? Whom you are going to measure? Your participant. So purpose statement here is, it's not just a statement, it's kind of like 2-3 paragraphs just to tell the readers this is the purpose of my study. And you can signal your purpose of study by using this phrase: the purpose of this quantitative, qualitative, mixed method, experimental, quasi-experimental, and many other, it depends on the study you are doing. The purpose of this study is to, for example, investigate the teacher's burnout, and so. Look at this here. The purpose of this study was to explore the relationship of principals, leadership styles, and their scoring rating of exemplary recognized. So this is here, if you look at here, this author or this writer has almost, has four, 1, 2, 3, 4 purposes to talk about or to investigate. Significance of the study. So here you need to tell us, so what? You are conducting this study. Okay, so what? What is the significance of this study? Is it significant? What is the contribution of your study? So you need to do one of these 8 or 9 elements here. Is your study contribute to the development of a new theory? Test an existing theory, uncover new facts or principles, challenge existing truth or assumptions, suggest relationships between phenomena, provide new insights into phenomena, suggest a new interpretation of known facts, alter others' people's perceptions about phenomena, extend a research methodology or statistical procedures. You need to have one of these elements as a significant of your study. If you don't have one of these, please reconsider the purpose of your study and the significance of your studies. Otherwise, the big question that most advisors or committee members ask: so what? You have this study, so what? What's the point? What is your contribution, or what is the contribution of your study? You have to have one of these, at least one of these significance elements. Okay, so let's see here. We have two examples of significance of sentence. The significance of this study is paramount as it contributes. You see, this author uses contribution, valuable insight and theory into the successful implementation of technology. Here, the result of this study may be utilized to develop improved training models. Another contribution of the study. All right, research questions. Simply put, by the way, next week we'll have a workshop about how to write your research questions. So I'm not going to talk about it in detail. So I will leave it to Mr. Hassin next week, inshallah. Simply put, turn the purpose statement into a question. This is the smart way, easy way and shortcut to how to write your research question. Look at this. The purpose of this quantitative study is to determine the relationship between measures of X and Y, for example. Simply put, the question here: what is the relationship between measures of X and Y? So this is your research questions. And there are many types of research questions and how to write, but simply put, this is an effective way of writing research questions. Then before writing your research questions, you need to signal your research questions. For example, based on the purpose of this study, the two research questions are. So these are like expressions that you need to use. This quantitative study will focus on answering the following questions. Well, the present study attempts to answer the following research questions. So something like that to signal the research questions. Limitations. Limitations here, what we mean by limitations is to identify potential weaknesses in your study. Keep it in your mind. Having weaknesses doesn't mean that your study is weak or not good, because not all elements are under control. Some of the elements, some of the factors may affect your study. For example, restrictions. Well, I only have 5 students. Why? Because I'm investigating male section. So this is one of the limitations that you might have in your study. Generalizability. This study cannot be generalized because I only interviewed 5 participants. So I cannot generalize my study to the whole population because I only have very limited number of participants. So these are some limitations. Again, having limitations, every study in the world, every study has limitations. We have limitations, and look at the example here. Uh, if you look at the example, you'll see a couple limitations. We have also delimitation. Delimitations here, simply put, the scope of your study, the boundaries that you create in your study. Simply put, in a simple way, we have 2 ways of mentioning or assigning limitations. The uniqueness of setting. For example, look at this example here. The study will be confined to interviewing and observing at one school that has specific demographic characteristics. Okay, I choose this school because this school has specific demographic characteristics. This is the scope of my study. If we want to consider this as a limitation, you can say we cannot generalize the result of this study because I only focus on one school. You know now what is the difference between delimitation and limitation. It could be the nature and size of the sample as well. For this research, for example, 6 schools will be chosen to be part of the study. I only choose 6 schools. This is my scope. I don't need to take 10 or 20. I only need to investigate this in 6 schools. That's it. This is the point here of when we talk about or mention delimitation. Finally, definitions of terms. You need to define the terms or terminologies in your study, specifically the key terms, new words, because don't assume your readers know everything. Not all readers know your or know the terminologies or know the terms in your study. So you need to tell them specifically the specific or special words or key terms in your study. So that's all about the introduction. Let's now move on to literature review. Well, when you write your literature review, you need to take into consideration these points here. You need to provide historical, or generally speaking, literature review provides a historical background for your study, describe the current status of your study, support the purpose of your study, most importantly, identifying research gaps in the literature. You need to become aware of the variables relevant to the problem of your study, understand the seminal studies, widely cited, the scholars in your study, the seminal work in your study, identify leading journals, leading scholars, leading books or seminal books in your field or in your study. Proposing useful theoretical construct, again, for those who are in humanities and social science, theoretical construct, a theoretical framework can be uh, identified from the literature. Understand the application of appropriate methodological procedures. This is another very important purpose of literature review. Observe comparative studies that assist in analyzing your data and interpreting the results. So if you master some of these uh, techniques here or tips, believe me, writing literature review is going to be just a piece of cake. And I have other suggestions and tips and techniques here. Let's move now to searching the literature. A good literature review summarizes critiques related to your study and shows the link between the literature and your study. Don't forget to present contrasting views about the topic. Literature review, it's not like summarizing each study in a separate paragraph. No, this is not the literature review. This is a summary. The literature review, you need to summarize, analyze, and synthesize. Summarize the article. For example, if you have 10 articles, summarize them, then analyze them, link them to your problem, statement of problem, link them to the study, your study. Then you need to synthesize them. How? I will show you in a minute. Synthesize them, link them all together to find your research gaps. Some reliable resources here. We have handbooks, annual reviews, review articles, uh, abstracting and databases, documents as well, major public search engines. So I highlighted these three: annual reviews, review articles, and major public search engines. For example, your university library, KAU library, or Google Scholar. So annual reviews and review articles provide rich data for you. You don't need to survey the whole literature, let's say 50, 40 articles. If you find an article that is an annual review or review article, so then read it. You will get the gist of the whole articles, 10, 15, 20 articles. You'll get the gist about the gist of all of these articles. So now we move from searching the literature to brainstorming and organizing the content for the literature review. Or you need to organize the structure, you need to organize the literature that you read, written, studied, everything. You can use concept map, for example. You can use outline. Personally, I prefer using outlines. You can use fishbone diagram, whatever, an easy way for you to organize the literature, use it. We have also techniques here. Organize your material in a funnel. This is the funnel, moving from general to specific. So from broad context all the way to gap, purpose, and then how to fill the gap by presenting your research questions. This is what we call it, the funnel. Be selective. Don't read everything. Be selective. Choose the topics or choose the articles that are closely related to your topic or problem. Make an outline. Write the introduction. Use headings. Headings are very important. Use transition. For example, when you move from one idea to another, from section to section, you need to use transition to make the flow of your ideas moving logically. Write a summary. Okay, that's it. And be careful not to plagiarize. because when you copy and paste, this is a plagiarism, even if you cite it. Imagine that you copy and paste everything from the literature and put it in like quotation. So then you didn't do anything, just copying and pasting. So no analysis, no synthesis. So I would consider this as like copy and paste. That's it. It might go under the plagiarism, and your supervisor would say, okay, this is not a literature review. Go back, revisit it, synthesize it, and analyze it. Now let's move on to how to begin writing the literature review. These are some advices or suggestions. Maintain an ongoing annotated bibliography. Inshallah, maybe next semester we'll have a workshop about how to write an annotated bibliography, because this is a very important. It's similar like organizing and reading a couple articles, then put them in a very nice way and try to identify the gaps. Another smart way, use assignments from classes to begin building a review of the literature. If you do this, this is a smart move from you. Develop a systematic topic identifying procedures. For example, you have big picture, big topic, then you move, narrow it down, down until you reach the concise or the topic that you like. Try to find and answer questions in research articles. If you go to the end of the article, you will see further research, or try to find expressions like future studies could be so and so. Use references in articles to find additional resources. Read completed research reports, thesis, or dissertation. Begin thinking about title for your study. Now you're done with the steps, these steps. Now you begin, try to formulate your topic. Interact with peers. Ask them. Share with them your topic. As I mentioned earlier, colleagues, experts, your supervisor, your participants. Why not? Here, use past tense when you write your literature review, and most importantly is to point out the gap. So you have, for example, 10 pages of literature review. So what is your research gap? You need to make it as clear as possible at the end of your uh, literature review chapter. And my advice here is to work smart, not hard. Work smart, not hard. Synthesis. This is the most important part in your literature review. Describe and analyze the literature to show how previous studies are related to each other and to your study. This is this is the key to analyzing and synthesizing the literature review. A good review is a critical synthesis. It's not just summarizing the whole 10 articles. This is not a review. You need to synthesize critically. How? One of these strategies, you need to apply one of these strategies. Provide historical context to help the reader understand the phenomena, point out gaps in the literature, show how a study differs from a group of previous studies, uh, identify themes in a group of studies, report practical significance, reconcile conflicting theories concerning an important variable, use tables to summarize research on a single variable, clarify inconsistent findings, and I can't see this, okay, and signal a continuing line of inquiry. That's all about the literature. I hope it is clear enough to get uh, the core point of this chapter. All right, moving now to the method section. Well, again, theoretical framework could be added here in the methodology chapter. Again, it depends on whether you are in social science and humanities or hard science and medicine. So the best way to choose your theoretical framework and how to choose it is to go back to the literature review. Read the literature, try to find the theoretical framework that is suitable to your study. And also don't forget to consult your advisor in this regard. So what is included in methodology and the methodology chapter? You need to include introduction, participant, instrument, data collection, and data analysis. What is in the introduction? You need to provide an overall of the chapter, overall or overview of the chapter. You can say, for example, restate the purpose of your study with your research questions. It could be the purpose of the study is 2, or chapter 3 will present the qualitative or quantitative methodology that will be employed, and you provide some details here. As far as the tense, be careful. If you write your proposal, the 3 chapters, so the methodology chapter, in the methodology chapter, use future tense. If you write your proposal, use future tense. The study will be conducted at X university, for example. The participant will be 10 teachers. But once you are ready, once you are done with your data collection and everything, and your dissertation is ready, the thesis is ready, then change the future to the past. The study was conducted at X university. The participants were 10 teachers. So be careful when you use tense in this situation. Okay, this is the introduction with a section of participants. Here you need to describe the location and the demographic information or characteristics of the site and the participants. Be careful not to identify the location or the site of your study unless if you have a permission. If you submit the ethical form, for example, or the IRB, Institution Review Board form, and the university or the site gives you the permission to mention the name of the institution or the school or whatever the site is, so you have the right to present the name of the institution or the site. If not, please don't do it because it's not ethically. You could say, for example, the study was conducted at a major university in Saudi Arabia. That's it. If you don't have a permission. If you have a permission, for example, the study was conducted at King Abdulaziz University. Describe who participated in the study, including all the characteristics: age, gender, level, for example, track, if they are in different tracks, all the characteristics, race, ethnicity, and so on. Grades, for example, describe how the participants were selected to be considered as representative. Here, when we say representative, whether this can be generalized or not. Representative here related to the generalizability of your study. Then how you selected your participant, whether random sampling, and there are different approaches: simple random sampling, stratified, cluster, systematic, or non-random sampling. It could be convenience, purposeful, or quota. The big question here is that all students who have participants in their studies would ask, how many participants? The answer is it depends. It depends on how feasible, how manageable, how you are going to collect your data. But there are four ways of making the decision. The first one, heuristic, by try, different attempts, trials, literature review. You can take this from literature review. Let's say, for example, 10 studies involved from 10 to 15 participants. Now, my study will be around this range. Formulas. There are many formulas that you could use. For example, SurveyMonkey website has a formula that you can use to, you know, to identify how many participants you have. Power analysis, this is a very advanced way of using this, especially with the statisticians or in statistic. Here we have examples of this section. Participant, the sample was comprised of 63 universities within the University Council of Education Administration membership. You see here no name for universities, also here in the second example. Instrumentation, so you need to talk about all of these elements when you want to talk about instruments. Name of the instrument, acronym, authors, reference. If you take this from other resources, you need to refer to this, the purpose of choosing this, what it measures, number of items. You need also to talk about the items, scales, for example, Likert scales. What is in Likert scale? For example, agree, strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree. Scoring, for example, if you have test, pre-test. The reliability, which is basically the degree to which an instrument measures what it is measuring. And the validity. The reliability and validity, you need also to talk about these things. The validity is a degree to which an instrument measures what it's supposed to measure. All right. Here also have another example of the instrument and how to talk about it. Okay, the data collection. Now, you need to describe all the procedures that you went through. Indicate the steps that you were taking to collect the data before, during, and after data collection. For example, before collecting data, how you develop the materials, obtain consent form, develop questionnaire, or interviews, for example, whether you conducted a pilot study or not. This is really an important step here. Whether you comply with your university ethical committee. During the data collection, describe what participant will be asked. If you have interventions, talk about the intervention. Instruments, talk about it in a more detailed way. Instructions given to participants. Time elapsed between activities. If you have, for example, if you ask your students to do the activity, talk about the time, the administering of activity, you need to talk about it. Describe also different strategies or procedures in which you will conduct your data, whether you have interviews, focus group, documents, discourse analysis, whatever you have. There is a term here called triangulation, which is using multiple resources of data collection just to enhance the credibility and trustworthiness of your study. If you are conducting qualitative study, for example, interviews or action research, you need to talk about your role as a researcher here. What is your relationship between you as a researcher and your participants? This is very important just uh, to refrain from being like asking your student to do this and that because you have power on them or not. Just tell us what is the relationship and your role here. Here, data collection example. Data analysis, you need to describe the statistical test you used in your study. Also tell us the techniques you used, the variables, whether the level of the significant, whether it's 0.5 or not. Also the questions, whether addressed by the analysis or not. Describe in detail the method of analysis, and in qualitative research, analyze, organize, and code. Do coding just to make it easier for you. Categorize your data. But when it comes to here I have also another example. Another example here. When it comes to data analysis here, in qualitative, just if you want to use coding, you have three types of coding: open coding, exile coding, and selective coding. So it's easier for you if you use this kind of coding to organize your qualitative data. Findings and analysis. Concentrate on purely objective analysis. No need to add your opinion, no need to say anything about your data. Present only the results and relevant results that answer your research questions. Ensure your results reflect and align with the purpose of your study. The result chapter requires maximum clarity. Use past tense here. There is no length. Be as concise as possible. Use tables to organize your descriptive data. And if you have additional analysis or findings that are not related to your research questions, leave them at the end of the chapter. Here I have steps, general steps you can use or follow when you write your findings and analysis chapter. Revisit your research questions, craft overview, present sample demographic data, for example, age and gender and so forth. Measures, present the descriptive, inferential, statistic, qualitative analysis as well. Test your hypothesis, and at the end, provide a summary for each chapter. By the way, you need to add summary of each chapter. From introduction all the way, each chapter has to have a summary. So for quantitative dissertation thesis or thesis, these are 6 strategies or tips or techniques. Listed the first questions, the first question or hypothesis, then reference the table or figure in the text that refer to research questions. Discuss the highlights of the data contained in the table. State the outcome of the analysis for research questions. State the disposition of research questions, and state the next research question, and follow the previous 5 steps to do the same steps for question number 2 and 3. For qualitative here, read and reread and reread your data, because you have rich data. You need to read your data again and again and again. Summarize your data. There is what we call it member check. Member check here, when you give your participant the data just to verify whether they say this or not. This is just a kind of extra step that you need to do, or if you want to validate your data. Reduce your data by developing codes. Again, the 3 types of coding. If you use these codes, it's going to be easier for you to manage your data. Sort your data into some kinds of coherent and themes. Again, you can use colors when you do the coding. You do the process for each theme. When you have themes, you do the coding, then you will end up with a very nice and clear way of presenting your results. Checklists. if you finish writing your findings chapter, so you have 4 questions. You can use these questions as checklist for you. Have I presented my data in a clear and easy to understand way? Have I used graphs, charts, tables, whatever this is relevant? Have I made sure that the data is presented in a logical order? Have I added necessary appendices and referred to them in the text? These are 4 questions that you can use to checklist uh, your findings section or chapter. Discussion. Here there is no clear structure for the discussion chapter. You can use it by research question. You can structure it by using research question or by different subsections uh, like the way you used in the findings. You can structure it the same in the discussion. So some tips and strategies to structure or to write your discussion here. Briefly restate each question. Present the result that relate to research questions. Present the result, only the result that relate to research questions. Summarize your findings. Interpret your results. Discuss, analyze, and explain the results of each question or hypothesis, variable, or theme. For example, if you decide to structure your discussion chapter by theme, so then use themes here and discuss and analyze and explain. Indicate how the results of your study support, contradict, or extend the knowledge or existing literature. Explain why your results may not have turned out as expected. For example, if you have a hypothesis or research questions or something in your mind, but the results are not the ones that you are looking for or expected. Try to look back at the sampling. This is one way. Instrument, what's wrong with the instrument and sampling? If you use a different way, the research design in general. Look at this here, this author. This finding is consistent with previous research, which indicated that one of the most accurate predictors of. Now the author starts explaining and analyzing his or her finding here. Common mistakes people make when writing their discussion. Simply repeating the result section or making general conclusion that is not related to the research questions. Focus too much on the limitation of the study or forget to acknowledge the limitations. This is very important. Again, repeating the introduction or the literature review in the discussion without analysis, without deep and in detail analysis. Providing no conclusion, just a discussion and that's it. Introducing new topics or topics that are not covered in the results. This is another common mistake that most students, grad students, make when writing discussion section. Last section, or it could be section or chapter, which is summary, conclusion, and recommendation. Well, the concluding chapter of your dissertation or thesis could include summary, discussion, implications, recommendations, and or conclusions. So again, it depends on how you structure it. It depends on the school you are in or the university. In conclusion, the conclusion section provides the researcher's sense of how findings of the study contribute to the knowledge base of your study. So in this chapter, you need to summarize your study, discuss a little bit the study, and identify implications from your study. the most important part that you need to add in the conclusion is the recommendation for future studies or future research. Provide ideas for researchable topics. Provide suggestions for those who will read your thesis or dissertation. Do not include recommendations that have no direct link to the findings or to the research questions or to your study. Be careful that your recommendations are not stated so they sound like conclusions. Implications: some fields, some disciplines would ask you to provide, especially in social science and humanities, they might ask you to provide suggestions or implications. So provide implications of your study for practitioners or for researchers. Suggest how the result of your study may be applied to practice, especially if you conduct an action research or experimental research. This is a very important. Tell the audience or tell the participants or the policymakers the results of your study. Look at this example here, a conclusion, and takeaway advice. Again, consult your advisor, your committee chair, and also your university manual to see the structure of your dissertation or thesis. That's it. And thank you for listening, and thank you for attending the workshop. And yeah, let's see if you have questions, concerns. Okay, sure. My pleasure. Please email me or email the writing center so I can share with you the slides. Okay, I think Brother Kamal, we can't hear Brother Kamal. Okay, I think Arshad has a question. You can open your mic or post it here in the chat. Let me see. Yeah, the setting here. Okay. Yeah, I think Brother Kamal has just shared the links. Okay, let me share with you now the links. I think Brother Kamal has issues with the sound. Okay. So this is the evaluation form, the link for the evaluation form, and the appointment website. If you have any question or you need consultation in your writing, please, you can make an appointment or couple appointments with our writing specialists, and we will happy to help you. And the third one is our YouTube channel. Inshallah, we will upload this workshop or this presentation, inshallah, into our YouTube channel within 24 to 48 hours, inshallah. And for the certificate, we will send you the certificate again within, inshallah, 48 hours. Yes, brother Arshad, if you can post your, I don't know why, I think the setting here is not, if you could write your question in the chat. I'm trying to give you permission, but okay, Arshad, I will give you manually. Okay. Yes, Arshad, can you go ahead, open your mic? Okay, Anas, should I describe the relationship for all participants involved? When it comes to the relationship here, you need to tell us, especially if you are involved with a participant, you need to tell us whether you work as a researcher or a researcher as a participant or as a participant, not a researcher. So here, if you identify this, if you tell the readers, it's really helpful for them because you need to stay away from being biased, something related to your study. So this is it. This is the point here. All right. Any questions? بالنسبة للتحضير الرابط الأول اللي هو الإيفالويشن فورم، رابط تقييم الورشة. Brother Kamal, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Now I can hear you, Dr. Basim. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay.
By the way, I copied all the emails of the participants. Those who are interested in receiving the slides, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah.
I copied your names. Those who have completed the survey, the evaluation form, and for sure, if the information is accurate, you'll get your certificate, inshallah, within 24 to 48 hours. If you can hear me, do you have more questions for Dr. Basim before he ends his presentation?
Okay. My question is there any way or conditions in which a study could be with no limitations? No. Unfortunately, Muhammad, no. Every study has some limitations. You cannot control all variables. You cannot control all factors. So unfortunately, no. But you try to minimize the effect of the factors or the variables, but you need to tell us or tell the readers what are your what are your limitations. I love reading research. Any tips on summarizing? Well, the tip that I want you to do, or my advice, is to read the literature review section in articles, journal articles. Read the literature review section. You will read it critically. Critically, read it critically. Then you will see how the author, especially scholars, how scholars synthesize the like 10 articles in short paragraph or in 2 or 3 paragraphs. So this is my advice. If you read it critically, you will get the point that I'm talking about. The certificate, inshallah. Yeah, critical reading. Yes, Shada. Exactly. Where I can get certificate, we will send the certificate, inshallah, within 48 hours. Is good by a problem with speaking. Listening. If you improve your listening skills and reading skills, believe me, your speaking skill, inshallah, is going to improve. Improve. About the outline. Sorry, Wajdan, I didn't see your question. About the outline. Critical reading. Any books? Well, I don't have something on my mind now, but I'll try. I'll try to post them later. Videos, yeah, videos. Go to YouTube. Write critical reading. How to improve critical reading. You will see many videos there. Could you give examples for doing the outline for the literature review? Well, when you read articles and books here, take notes. Take notes of the most important points that you are looking for. Then add these as sections in outline, in headings. So heading number one is the point number one. Heading number two is my point, second point, third point. Now then heading, subheading, subheading. So if you don't know this technique, you can use concept map, draw a concept map. This is another good technique that you can use. Any other questions؟ نعم عن طريق الإيميل. Yes, Adwad, thank you very much. Yes, use matrix. This is also another technique that you can use. Matrix, yes. All right, so it seems that there are no more questions.
Okay, can you hear me, Basim?
Yes, brother,
Can
come
you
on,
hear
go
me,
ahead.
Mr. Basim? Great.
Yes.
Okay, if you have no more questions, again, thank you everybody for attending. A lot of questions regarding the certificates. As we always mention, dear ladies and gentlemen, all certificates will be sent into your emails within 48 hours, inshallah. If, of course, if you fill in the evaluation form correctly and accurately. Again, if you have no more questions, thank you all for attending and for your interaction and your excellent and active participation. Thank you, Dr. Basim, for the very valuable, interesting, useful, and very important presentation. Looking forward, inshallah, to meeting you next week for another presentation. I posted the other 7 online workshops in the chat box. You can have a look at them and we'll be looking forward to meeting you and seeing you in these very valuable workshops, inshallah. Thank you all for attending. Goodbye and see you. Please make sure that you fill in the evaluation form.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
And by the way, I copied all the emails from the chat box in order to send you the slides if Dr. Basim does not mind. And it's his own
Okay.
presentation. So inshallah, I'll send
Okay.
them later on to everybody who provided us with his or her email.
Thank you.